What's going on, guys? It's David from AquaOtter, and welcome back to another One Piece chapter review. I want to start this video off by apologizing for the video being a little bit late. I tried recording it actually earlier this week, and I had some issues with my equipment, but they're all fixed now. I'm back. We're talking about chapter 1005, titled Demon Child. It's a super hype chapter. I'm really excited to talk about it. So we're going to hop right into it, starting with the cover page, which is Katakuri giving hungry kittens and puppies milk and donuts. Not a whole lot to say about it. It is good to see Katakuri back. I like the consistency that he's there eating with his back turned so that no one can see him eat. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the cover page. We're going to move right into the chapter, which starts right where we left off with chapter 1004. We don't get to see who's in the room. Yeah, Oda with his silhouettes in the past two chapters. I kind of didn't think that we were going to get a reveal, but it is good to see that we're picking up right where we left off. We're not bouncing around again. So we are, of course, picking up with Black Maria, who has Sanji captured and is torturing Sanji. She's telling him, I need you to call out for Robin because now I have to go. I have to kill these samurai. I have things that I need to do. So why don't you just give up? Why don't you just come in and call for her? And she lays out her trap that she has set for Robin for him. She goes, when you call her, I have my spider webs. They're laid out all throughout the floors, all over the walls, and every door. There's no way that she can get in here without being trapped by my webs. And then she puts on a pair of brass knuckles, and she starts beating the crap out of Sanji. And she just says, so why don't you call? Why don't you call? And she's beating him and she's pummeling him. And she's got Sanji laid out on a spiderweb crucifix. And these shots are brutal. And he's taking them. And Oda even shows a little bit of a boing sound effect when he gets hit and the web kind of bounces. But so she's absolutely laying into him and nothing is happening. And all of her little goons, the yokai looking women that are in her area with her, they're all making comments about Sanji and saying how admirable it is that he would rather get himself pummeled to death and he would rather die than sell out one of his friends. And it's at this point that they're commenting on this that Sanji actually says, you start hearing him try and say something and he yells out, wait. And he says, just give me 1 second to say one little thing. And all the yokai women, they're still talking about how impressive he is. They're saying this is probably his last stand moment. He's right on his last legs. He's about to die, but he's going to get that one last insult in on Black Maria before he goes. And they say, even if he wasn't our enemy, I might just fall in love with him because he's being so manly. And I've been steering away from actually showing the manga panels in my videos because I'm really worried about copyright strikes, but there's 3 panels in specifically that I'm going to have up on the screen. I'm going to put it right here. This panel where Sanji just yells out, help me, Robin. Completely, no hesitation, calls out for her. And I want to talk about this moment a little bit later. I'm going to go into the moment in its entirety and what happens in the fallout from him yelling this because a lot of the next couple panels and the next couple pages are focused on this. So he yells out, help me, Robin. And everyone is so shocked, just absolutely flabbergasted. He called for her after all. What? And so he yells that into the woman with the paper on her face, which I had speculated in my last video was actually Robin. They lay it out very clearly in this chapter that it's not Robin. She's actually a smile user. They call her Cayman Lady. The top half of her body is a normal woman, but then the bottom half of her body is kind of like a crocodile, so a caiman. So he yells that into her face pretty much, and it starts getting broadcast all over Onigashima. And they do go into what this is later in the chapter, but I'm gonna say right now, they do explain that these are things called Marys. They're kind of Kaido's surveillance force. So I'll talk a little bit deeper on that when it happens later in the chapter. But he yells it into her, and it starts being broadcast all over the battlefield. And this is where Oda does his brilliant tactic of actually checking in on all the little people and the fights. You actually get to see, besides Luffy and Zoro, who are obviously up on the roof with Kaido, you get to see every single Straw Hat's reaction to Sanji and what he's saying here. So apart from saying, help me, Robin, he also yells out his specific location. I'm on the 3rd floor in the banquet hall. I've been trapped. I'm sorry. Please come save me. So this is being broadcast, and you get to see the first people that you see is you see Drake and Apu, and they're fighting. And it took me a couple read-throughs of this chapter to realize that it was Drake and Apu, because there's so much going on in all of these little check-ins that we get. So we see Drake and Apu, they're still fighting. Then we get to see Chopper, who is just plugging away, trying to come up with a cure for Queen's ice poison with Dr. Miyagi, the little like gazelle mink. And then we see the reaction from 2 members of the Kid Pirates and 2 members of the Heart Pirates, and it's Heat and Wire, the guy. I don't even know if I explained Wire. He's such like an insignificant character that no one would know who he is. But Heat is the guy who looks kind of all like tatted up. He's got like the long like gray hair, and they're saying like, oh, can you listen to this guy? He's so pathetic, like begging for his life. And then you see from the Heart Pirates, you see Beppo and Penguin, and they're all fighting just as Heat and Wire are, and everyone else around Onigashima is fighting. And they're saying, is this really one of the Straw Hats? And then we continue within the next panel. We see Marco and King fighting, and I don't see Queen. I specifically want to say I have scoured the panel here where you see Marco versus King, and Marco is fighting a lot more flying smile fruits here, but I do not see Queen, which leads me to believe that Queen has kind of effed off to someplace else on the battlefield. And Sanji is continuing what he's saying. He's saying, if you don't come here right now, I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. Please come save me. And you see Jinbei and Who's Who are fighting, and Jinbei has his arm completely armament hockeyed up, and I love this. This is honestly, of all of the fights that are happening around Onigashima, the one that I'm the most excited to check in with and actually start seeing is Jinbei versus Who's Who, because I have loved Jinbei since the first time that we meet him. I'm so happy that he is now finally with the crew, and this is going to be his first chance to really prove himself. But you see Jinbei during this fight with Who's Who, this little check-in, he's got his arm completely armament hockeyed up, and he is not even paying attention to Who's Who. Like, he just has the luxury of Who's Who is in full Sabretooth form, just lunging at his arm, and he's completely looking the opposite way. And he says, his voice is carrying completely around the island. Nico Robin is a worldwide threat. Of course they would know about her. They want her for something. And then Frankie versus Sasuke is the next panel. They're still in their grappling fight. And Sasuke is low-key also dissing Sanji here. He says, this is obviously a trap to capture Nico Robin. And he starts laughing and says, listen to that guy whining and wailing. And so I feel like now would be a good time to talk about the Sanji issues. A lot of people are super, super upset about this, and I personally do not understand why. There has been a super, super vocal outrage in the community about this moment with Sanji calling for help, and people are saying that it's emasculating him, like it's really like making him seem like an idiot. And to that, I just want to say, when I was going to record this video earlier, I was going to kind of really go in hard and talk about all the things that Sanji, all the things that Sanji has done to make him look cool post-time skip, and all the things, even in the arc of Wano, that has made Sanji look cool, that makes this moment okay. But then I realized that all that I need to say is there are 2 moments specifically that this harkens back to within Sanji's character. And all the people who are saying that it makes him look stupid, I want to argue that it is completely within Sanji's character, and it has been within Sanji's character all the way before the time skip to do this and to completely emasculate himself. Because the first moment is all the way back in Eni's lobby when he was not able to fight Khalifa, and he got himself absolutely decimated almost at the cost of his own life. He got himself completely decimated because Sanji refuses. It is part of his character. It is a core part of who he is as a person. Sanji refuses to lay a hand on a woman. So Khalifa destroyed him, and he had to lean on Nami to finish that fight for him. And so there's the moment in Eni's lobby where he kind of, after the fight with Nami, the bathtub gets knocked over, the water washes over him, washes her soap off of him, and he's back to normal. And he runs off to someplace else in the tower, and he comes across Jabra and Usopp. And Usopp, or Sogeking at this point, even though most people besides Luffy knew that Sogeking was Usopp, but he comes across Usopp and he says to him, I'll take it from here, I'll get the key, you go someplace else and, go do something else. And he says to Usopp, there are things that people can and cannot do. I will do what you can't, and you do what I cannot. And this harkens back to this moment all these chapters later in Wano, where he is now calling for help from Robin. And it's because he knows that he cannot, he knows that this is his weakness. He knows that this is something he cannot do. So he needs someone who can do what he cannot, so that he can be free to go do something that they cannot. And he knows that this is a pivotal moment. We all know that this is a pivotal moment. I would say this is the culmination of probably what I would call the third part, like the 3/4 part of the One Piece story. Because I feel like the whole Marineford to the time skip, that was, Oda has come out and said that is essentially the halfway point of the story for him. I would argue that from the Return to Sabaody arc all the way through to Fishman Island to Punk Hazard, that is kind of like the beginning of the third quarter of the One Piece story. And it is set up, the whole Wano arc is set up within Punk Hazard, and we are now at that moment. We're in the big climax where we're getting to the resolution of the 3/4 of the story. And he knows how pivotal this is. If anyone fails, if anyone is not carrying their weight during this raid on Onigashima, they might as well all just give up and surrender to Kaido right now. So he calls out for Robin, and this is where the second part, the second callback to the story comes in, which is the entirety of the Whole Cake Island arc. Like, I feel like people forget that even though we had Reverie breaking up Whole Cake and Wano, the entire 95 chapter arc that came before Wano was literally a arc to teach Sanji that he needs to be able to ask for help from his friends. Like, the whole trouble with Whole Cake, the whole reason the Whole Cake happened is because Sanji got himself into trouble. He felt completely powerless against his family and in the face of Big Mom, a Yonko. What is he, one person, gonna do? That he didn't think that he could ask for help. He truly believed that the Straw Hats would be better without him. And that's why he fought so hard when Luffy showed up to save him, is because he didn't want to ask them for help. He felt like he would rather just give in to the impossibleness of the situation. And this is him learning from that experience, because he learned from it within Whole Cake. And I've seen people online saying that his development with that happened during Whole Cake and that it didn't need to happen here. But I would argue that it did need to happen here, because it needed to be reinforced. Like, yes, he learned from that in Whole Cake, but there's a whole difference between being taught a lesson in the moment and someone saying, Sanji, you can ask for help, and then actually like learning that lesson and being able to apply it moving forward. So I know that was really long-winded, but that's how I feel about this whole Sanji situation. I honestly felt like it was an amazing character moment, and people need to realize that Sanji is gonna have moments in the arc, but this is not his chapter. The chapter is literally called Demon Child, which is the epithet of Nico Robin. This is Robin's chapter, so it wasn't about him. So if Sanji had to be used as a vessel to set up what is happening later in this chapter and what is eventually going to happen in this situation to put Robin where she needs to be, that's fine. And Oda's going to make up for it. Like, everyone is going to have their moment to shine. And I'll get to that in my predictions at the end of the video. But that's all I wanted to say about the Sanji situation. But so the next thing that happens here, going back to what we were talking about, after you see Frankie and Sasuke is making fun of Sanji, you see Marco, and Marco hits the floor, and he has this huge smile on his face, and he just says, these guys are fun, which I love. I love that Marco is just there. It's probably been some time, probably since the Payback War, since Marco's seen any action, and he just is... He's getting that same feeling from all of the Straw Hats, I think, that he got from Luffy during Marineford. All of the Whitebeard crew was super impressed with Luffy during Marineford. They were like, who is this kid? This is someone to watch. Like, he just showed up out of the blue. He's clearly outranked, completely outnumbered, but he's here and he is just going to mess things up. And I feel like Marco in this moment with Sanji is is getting that feeling about the rest of the Straw Hat crew, and that's why he comments, "These guys are fun." And then this is when you see Nami and Usopp's reaction, and this kind of starts leading us into the reveal of what the things with the paper on their face is. Nami kind of reacts to this broadcast, what Sanji's saying. She reacts by saying, "Oh, his opponent must be a woman," which I love because, of course, she would know that. She was the one who had to step in last time Sanji got faced up with a woman and save his life. And Usopp, the Tinkerer, I love this. Usopp has always, from the beginning, I know that Frankie is kind of like the mech guy and like the Tinkerer of the crew at this point, but Usopp from the beginning of the story has always had some kind of inclination towards, he may be a coward, but he's very smart. And he says to Nami, "Nami, I hear Sanji's voice is coming from that thing. I wonder what that paper on its face is." So he starts kind of putting together, the cogs are starting to turn in Usopp's head. And I really think that Usopp is probably going to be the one who ends up disabling the communication network. And this is something that I really like. I don't want to hark on it too much, but I really like that in the Four Emperors saga, in Whole Cake Island, and now it seems like here in Wano, one of the big things that Oda's been focusing on is the intel network. One of the huge reasons that the Straw Hats were able to kind of escape Whole Cake Island was because Praline, who was Aladdin from the Fishman Pirates' wife, but also a daughter of Big Mom, she disabled the communications network for Big Mom because she was Big Mom's daughter. She knew where it was. She was a fishman, so she could enamor the sea slugs that they were using as their intel network to disable them. And now it seems like it's happening now with these things with the paper on their face. So it's at this point, after he calls out for Nico Robin and everyone's had their reaction, that you actually see a high heel appear. And everyone has been saying that this, I feel like every review that I've seen has not put it together. This is Robin's heel. This is just to show that she's here, she's showing up. It looks like she's actually right outside where Sanji and Black Maria are, because you actually get to see the building that Sanji's being held captive in right at the beginning of the chapter. And then again, when you see this high heel appear, it looks kind of similar to the same building. So then Sanji starts saying, "I did what you asked for, cut down my shackles, let me free." And someone informs Black Maria that someone is on their way. I think it's the snake teacher lady from the beginning of the arc, the one that was teaching all the kids like the propaganda against the Kozuki clan, saying like, "Oh, Shogun Orochi." But yeah, it actually, looking at it now, it is definitely her. She says, "Miss, someone's coming this way," and she goes, "Oh man, that was really quick." And then she tells Sanji, "I'm not going to let you go. I've actually kind of grown attached to you, so you're going to become like all these guys, and you're going to become my personal slaves." And we see a bunch of fodder characters that are basically like strung up very similarly to how Sanji is, and they're all completely enamored with Black Maria. They're saying, "Oh, we love Black Maria, we love her." And Sanji responds in the most Sanji of all ways. He just yells out, "I can't do that because I want to love all the ladies. I want to love all the women. I can't just be in love with you." And she starts she comes back in with the brass knuckles, and she says, "You're really going to cheat on me like that?" And Sanji yells out, I can't block because I don't want to hurt a lady's fist. My color of armament hockey, it's not working." And so there's a little bit of a weird moment here, because back in Whole Cake Island, Sanji used his hockey to block one of Big Mom's attacks. But in this moment, with Black Maria having brass knuckles on, he's saying, "I can't block." I did think that was a little bit of a weird moment with Sanji, but it doesn't matter because she never gets a chance to hit him, because we hear "Gigantesco mano," spank, and Robin comes in here, absolutely just bitch slaps Black Maria with one of her giant hands, knocks her clean across the room, and she says, "How did you get inside?" And Robin says, "I can bloom anywhere." And I think this is really interesting because I have a theory about this line, that I think that Robin's power, we know that she can clone herself. We've seen that on Fishman Island. We know that she can create full clones of herself. But I think that she can actually completely like break her body down and bloom it someplace else. Like if she was like, I feel like her power can almost be used to teleport just wherever she wants. And that's where this line comes from, "I can bloom anywhere." And so she is making a comment about how or Black Maria's making a comment about how Robin hit her in the face. And Sanji starts yelling out. He's crying. He's so relieved to see Robin there. And Robin says this amazing line. And this is where the second panel that I want to show will be flashed up here. It's kind of going to be a whole few spreads, but I want to talk about specifically this bit that's like right down here. Robin says that she spent a bunch of times with evil organizations. So whenever someone is hurting her friends, it brings out the demon inside of her. The demon part of her starts to emerge. And there's just this wicked look on her face. I love this look that's in her eye. Like, she is there. She means business. And at this point, Brook shows up. A little bit of Brook love in this chapter. It's not all about Robin. I love Brook. Brook is low-key I don't count Luffy when I say my favorite Straw Hats, because I feel like with most people, everyone's favorite Straw Hat is Luffy, and then they have someone else. But my second favorite Straw Hat is Brook, so I'm glad to see that he's going to be getting a little bit of action here in this fight. So he shows up and says, "Begging your pardon, I've cut all your threads," which is awesome because he comes in with his soul solid. He cuts all of the traps that Black Maria had laid out. He cuts Sanji down from his restraints, and this is a callback all the way back to when we first met Brook in Thriller Bark, and he actually saves Robin from a spider, which is just so cool. Oda is just a master of like long-term storytelling and just little dots and references to things that have happened before. And all of the yokai women, they start yelling about how all of Black Maria's traps have been disabled. They see Brook, they start screaming about how it's a monster, because Brook obviously is a skeleton, and he starts yelling at them, "You don't get to say that," because all of them look absolutely insane. So Sanji goes at this point, and he goes to just run away. And he says, "I have to leave because I don't, for some reason, I can't see myself winning here. I have to go help the samurai. I have to go help Kinemon." And once again, long-term storytelling here. I haven't seen anyone say anything about this, about how Sanji feels obligated to go check on the samurai. And even when he found out about the samurai in the last chapter, he was very surprised. You have to remember that it is actually Sanji who is kind of responsible for the Straw Hats getting involved in all of this. Like, Luffy is the one who made the deal with Law to go and try and take down Kaido, but Sanji is the one who kind of pledged himself to Kinemon and was like, "I am kind of duty-bound to help you with your mission. Like, as a gentleman, I am duty-bound to help you." Which is why I do like that he is now just completely taking himself out of the situation. And going back to what I said earlier about how people were upset about Sanji, a lot of people were upset that that Sanji is leaving Robin and Brook here to take care of Black Maria. Two things. He feels responsible for the samurai, as I just said, and he wants to go and make sure that they're okay. And number two, do you think that at any moment Sanji does not believe that Robin can handle Black Maria? Sanji would not leave in a heartbeat if he thought that Robin needed his help. So he is getting out of there because he trusts Robin. Like, these people are friends. And, like, first and foremost, they are friends. They are family. And he trusts her to take care of what he could not. Going back to that line, there are things that people can and cannot do. So Sanji gets himself out of there, and Black Maria tries to stop him, and Robin says, "Is that going to be your last will?" And she's also, once again, got this wicked look on her face, almost like Zoro-esque, where this look that she has on her face, and the fact she's got her arms crossed like she's about to do something, it reminds me of when Zoro like puts his bandana on, and you know that shit's about to get real. And as he is running away, she calls out to him, and this is the last panel that I want to put up on the screen. She goes, "Thanks for relying on me for help. I really appreciate that." And she gives him like a little tender wink. Like, the range of emotion that's shown here by Robin is amazing. She is dead serious. She is ready for this fight, but she also has this like tenderness that she gets to show her friends. And that wink, like, that is not a Robin wink. Like, we have never seen that out of her. Like, Nami has her wink, but Robin winking, that's like almost, it struck me almost as a little bit weird, but at the same time, it's not weird at all, because, like I said earlier, this is her family. Like, there's a side of her that comes out just when she's around them. You know, she trusts these people more than anything else in the world. They are the people who saved her from her fate all the way back in Eni's lobby. You know, they took on the world government for her, and now she is ready to stand and fight and die for any of them. And so Sanji runs off, and the next the next bit, this is where we get the explanation of what the people with the masks on their face are. So we cut at this point back to the storage room to Yamato and Momo and Shinobu. And they're holding a mouse that I'm assuming Yamato took down, and it's got the paper on its face. And they're asking Momo is asking what it is. And Yamato explains that they're called Marys. And at first, I wasn't sure what these are, but then I was reading something on Reddit about how these are probably something that was created by Queen, because the Queen Mary, it would make sense, and Oda is kind of like, he likes doing things with words like that. So what the Marys are is they are cybernetic animals. They're all cyborgs, and the cyborgs are able to feed and share what they hear and see with the women who have the paper on their face. And I'm not entirely sure how the transmission works. I don't know if these women are also cyborgs, but the animals at least are. And they're Kaido's surveillance force. So it's at this point that they realize that they've been kind of rumbled where their location is, and they realize that they have to get out of here. So at this point, we notice that there are some people outside the door trying to break into the storeroom, and Shinobu is saying to Yamato, "Is there any way that anywhere we can go where we can take Momo?" And something happens here I'm not a huge fan of. I know that One Piece is primarily like a gag manga, so sometimes there's a lot of humor that seems a little bit childish, but I feel like the joke here I feel like it was a bit of a detriment, because this character is so new, and she's already been kind of established a little bit as a serious character. But anyway, the joke is that Shinobu opens up her shirt basically and says, "Momo, get in." And I felt like we had come so far with Momo specifically, and kind of getting away from his like little perverted side into like him actually, like, this is very serious for him. He's taking everything seriously. And also to make this joke almost at the expense of Yamato, it didn't sit very well with me. If I had to complain about a single thing that happened in this chapter, that would be what I would complain about. But so Shinobu and Yamato, Momo hops into Yamato's shirt. Shinobu and Yamato knock down the door. They have the door barricaded. They're, the people on the outside are trying to break in. They bust out and start like beating them up and trying to get out of there. And so at this point we cut over to Jack, and Jack is completely beat up from his fight with, on the roof. He got absolutely destroyed by the Sulong form of Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. And he is saying to Black Maria, don't go and take care of the samurai. I will take care of the samurai. Like, don't be so fooled that even though they're injured, that any of the Tobiropo can take down the samurai. So he's in his full mammoth form, and he's heading towards the samurai, which, going back to earlier, that is exactly where Sanji is headed. So we are going to get a good Sanji moment here. And I really think that this is the setup to Sanji versus Jack. Would I like to see Sanji versus Queen more, but I feel like there's a more natural parallel for Chopper to fight Queen than for Sanji to fight Queen, even though Queen does know the Vinsmokes. But I feel like now at this point, anybody who mentions the Vinsmokes just kind of knows about their technology and the history of the Germa. I don't think specifically they have a tie to it, even though everyone has been theorizing that Queen has a tie to the Vinsmokes. But I'll get into that in my theories. So he reiterates, "Do not come, I will take care of them." And Black Maria says, "I take that as an insult, Jack." And then we cut back. This is the final page of the chapter. We cut back to Black Maria. She at this point has her kimono is completely off. She's taken her kimono off. She's got a big tattoo on her back, which I like this because it's kind of showing that there is this really ruthless side to her, which we already knew about. But Black Maria runs Kaido's brothel, and the tattoo on her back is the name of her brothel, Women Trouble, and she's holding this giant staff which has a Wan Yudo at the end, which ties into the yokai. So for anyone who's not familiar with a Wan Yudo or Japanese yokai in general, Wan Yudos are Japanese spirits which look like cartwheels with a human face on them, and they're on fire. And the story of a Wan Yudo is that way back in the day, there was a ruthless daimyo in Japan who used to have all of his subjects drawn and quartered. And it was said that when he died, his spirit was cursed to forever wander attached to a wagon wheel. So that's kind of where the Wan Yudos come from. It's a very interesting weapon. But going back to what I was saying about Black Maria, she's like ruthless. Like she is like almost like a yakuza, because everyone knows that in Japan there's kind of like a stigma about tattoos, and most tattoos belong to people who are in the yakuza. So this is showing like this is not just any normal human being. Like she is very manipulative, she's very brutal, she's basically like a mob boss here. And she says, "Listen to me, Nico Robin. By the time I'm done with you, you will belong to Master Kaido." And the final two panels are Robin, who says, "No thanks, I'd rather be dead," with a big old smile on her face. And Brook is sitting there like this. He's got a big red face because, of course, Black Maria's top is off. Brook's a pervert. So yeah, what a chapter. Honestly, I truly believe that chapter 1005 might be my favorite chapter that I've reviewed so far of all the chapters that I've reviewed. And I think primarily the reason for that is because it's setting up so much, like so much. And I want to talk a little bit, because I didn't mention it when Robin first showed up, I want to talk a little bit about Robin in general and how I've had this theory for a long time. And now I've only been reading weekly since chapter 1000, and I actually have fallen off of One Piece. I read it a lot when I was a kid, and then kind of around Impel Down I stopped getting my subscription to Shonen Jump, so I stopped having an outlet to read it. But I've had a theory ever since I started getting back into it, and I kind of got caught up around the time we got to Fishman Island. I've had this theory, and I feel like it's not a crazy theory, that we have not seen the full extent of any of the Straw Hats power-ups, like at all. I really don't think there's been a good moment for any of them to truly shine. And I said this before about Zoro, about how we've not seen the full extent of Zoro's power, and it's going to be brought out in this fight on the roof. I feel like this fight with Black Maria, Robin is going to pull some stuff out, because she's been training for 2 years with the Revolutionaries. She has to have some major power that she is not bringing out, because Nico Robin is genuinely a threat, and I feel like a lot of people forget that. I think that her power specifically, the Hana Hana no Mi, I feel like her power specifically is the most geared towards combat, and I'm actually surprised to this point that she hasn't had a good chance to showcase that. Like, she can literally sprout limbs on her wrist and just punch someone with 1,000 fists. So yeah, I'm very excited for Robin. I really loved the character development we got out of Sanji. I loved all the setups, all the check-ins. There's so much going on here. So, theories for the next couple chapters. I have already said, and I'm going to double down, or triple down at this point, I really think that Act 3 is ending soon. I feel like a lot of people don't. Act 3 is ending soon. I would say, if I had to wager, maybe 2-3 chapters, 5 chapters max. And I know I keep, I feel like I'm memeing on myself at this point, because I feel like every video that I watch, I keep increasing that time. But definitely going to end soon, because now we have the setup for what's happening on the roof. All right. We have the setup for the Robin versus Black Maria, with Brook playing support in that role. We have the setup for Sasaki versus Frankie, which was already kind of set up, but now we know for sure that fight is locked in. We have the setup for where Nami and Usopp are going to be fighting Page 1, and kind of using Tama to help with that. And then specifically because Tama is there, I know that fight is going to be interesting, because Ulti and Page 1 are the only two of the Tobi Roppo that they cover their mouth. So it's going to be difficult if they try and use Tama's power against them. I feel like that's going to be a lot of the struggle, is trying to figure out a way to incorporate Tama's abilities into helping them with that fight. So I feel like the next chapter is going to be setting up Sanji versus Jack. I feel like the next couple chapters, we're going to have to check in with Jinbei and Who's Who, because that fight, I'm pretty sure, is locked in. We're probably going to check in with Drake and Apu. We're definitely going to check in with Chopper and Queen, because I believe that the final fight for Queen is going to be Chopper, because it just makes sense. Like, it just makes sense for Chopper being the doctor and Queen being the person who is obsessed with creating illnesses, creating diseases. He's going to match up there. And then maybe we will have a moment between Marco and King. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the chapter if you read it, or because I genuinely thought it was a good one. Let me know how you guys feel about the Sanji situation, because I feel like people are kind of overblowing it, and I would like to know what your guys' opinions on the matter are. Yeah, so that's it for the chapter. That's it for the review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. I have a few things that I want to talk about that are coming out. I want to announce a possible video series that I've been thinking about doing, because I want to kind of gauge interest on whether or not it would be something that people who watch these reviews would be interested in. So I've been thinking for a while about doing a video series where I kind of cover the story of One Piece for people who are not familiar with the series, because I am at the point where I am pretty much the reason I started doing these chapter reviews is because I have no one else in my life that watches One Piece. Pretty much. I have like maybe one friend that I text every now and again whenever a particularly exciting chapter happens. But a lot of people who I ask whether or not they want to watch it or read it, just to kind of give it a try, they always say that it's very intimidating to get into. And I know that One Piece has done a pretty good job with releasing little specials like the episode of East Blue, the episode of Alabasta, all that kind of stuff, where it's basically like 2 hours and they condense the whole story down. But I've been thinking, as a way for like my people who are absolutely, there's no other way they're going to get into the series, unless like someone sits down and kind of catches them up. I was thinking about doing a basically like full spoiler analysis where I would go arc by arc and kind of let people know what happens in the story, so that people who maybe want to skip out on reading like the first 100 chapters, 200 chapters, 300 chapters, can kind of just watch, engage, and see like maybe this is something I want to read, and there's specifically a moment where I want to hop in. But I don't know if I will make that. I just wanted to announce it as something that I'm planning on doing to kind of gauge interest. If people say that they wouldn't want that, then I'm not gonna do that. Also, I have a separate project which is coming that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. It is a podcast. I don't want to go too into detail about it, but I do have the first episode is recorded and edited. It's going to be coming out on Spotify, so keep an eye on this channel, and also keep an eye on any of my social medias, which are all linked down in the description for any kind of news on that. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to keep up to date with what I'm doing and be notified of whenever a new chapter review goes out, or any of the other stuff that I'm planning on starting to put out on the channel, go ahead and subscribe to me. It honestly would mean the world. And yeah, until next week, I will see you guys in chapter 1006.